Hello, my name is Abby Sherlock, and I'm one of the co-hosts here for Area of Effect, and this is our hosting panel. Our guests today come from a wide range of backgrounds in production and a multitude of companies within the gaming industry. From current and past broadcasting work at top AAA studios to some of the biggest events in the world, we're talking epic events on their resumes like the North American League of Legends tournament and World of Warcraft finals. We are sitting in the presence of some pretty knockout talent. So we have some questions on deck for our awesome panelists, but we are also here for audience participation. You can ask your questions for a Q&A session to be answered at the end of the panel by typing command question in Twitch chat, which will bring up a form for you to submit your questions. Those in Discord can be on the lookout for this form in panel announcements. Let's level up and get this thing started. Reminder that we are still taking donations for our amazing causes, so please check that out. But I'm ready to talk to y'all. Can each of you give me a brief summary of who you are, what company you currently work for, and how you especially work within hosting? Let's start with Jess.
Hello, my name is Jess Brohard. As for a company that I currently work for, I'm actually freelance, but like a lot of my recent work has been for the CWL. So for the World War II and Black Ops 4 season, I was the sideline reporter for the Call of Duty World League, and then headed into this season. I've done little bits of work here and there for Activision Blizzard, but I'm not really on full-time roster with them. And then I also was under contract with the Rainbow Six North American League to host a weekly show for them. And then I just kind of do other little odds and ends here and there. I don't remember what what was the other part of the question besides
basically who you are and how you especially work in hosting. So you're mostly
a hostess. Yes, so I'm mostly a host. For a while, I was primarily kind of a stage host or interviewer. And then since the pandemic has hit, I've been more of a desk host, even though it's not really so much of a physical desk situation, but I have kind of transitioned into more desk hosting. So I do both.
Very cool. Malik?
Yeah, I'm very similar to Jess in the sense that I am a freelancer as well. Been all over the map, a bit of an elder statesman when it comes to the video game industry. But as far as esports goes, more recently, you might have seen me doing some work with the Overwatch League. I hosted a show for the Call of Duty League called Contesting the Point. And I also was a big part of E-League and their early endeavors. We had the Overwatch Open. We had the Street Fighter tournament as well. So yeah, that's kind of some of the more recent work that I've done in esports. And I'm just kind of always just doing some type of hosting. I'm just like Jess. I'm just always out there, getting my hands dirty and whatever I can when it comes to esports.
Love it. Aya.
Hi, I'm Aya, or Jillian Long. I work primarily in WoW esports. That's where I got my start. And just like Jess, I kind of started out as a sideline reporter or an interviewer. And then also I have sort of transitioned as a desk host as well during this pandemic. And I currently am the host for the AWC for World of Warcraft for the Arena circuit. And I've recently also been doing a little bit of Halo and Tier 2 Overwatch.
And Avali.
I'm really glad that you went right before me because, Abby, I lied a little bit. I said I was going to turn off WoW as soon as this started, but I needed to finish my quest. Aya, please help me. I started with BFA, but now I'm so lost. Okay. But getting back on track, hi, I'm Avali. I also do hosting, interviewing, and a bunch of other random content creation stuff within the scene. Started at the LCS, or actually started with Yahoo Esports doing interviews and stuff like that. Went into the LCS to do sideline interviews, like I know a couple other people have done here so far. But now I've moved into, more of like a hosting role, even like a producing role in some sorts of events, different shows, programs, and a crap ton of really weird social media content. So I'm all over. You've probably seen my face on like Twitch Rivals, LCS. I forget what I do sometimes, but... It's somewhere
there. But it's interesting. You just already talked about Yahoo Esports, but I would think it'd be really fascinating for folks to learn about all of your kind of journeys. So how did you get your start as a on-screen personality? And although you kind of mentioned, but maybe like the journey of getting that role.
Mine was weird, man. I'm going to tell you this. It was weird. I went to I finished high school and I'm like, all I know is that I want to work in esports somehow. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know if I'll sweep the floor at like, Blizzard or Riot HQ, but like I want to get into esports and gaming in some capacity. So I was doing a lot of production work. So I worked as a technical director, I did stage managing, like talent wranglers, I did social media for a bunch of different production companies and esports orgs. And the great thing about like grassroots production company is that you're really, really cheap and don't want to pay anyone to do anything. So while I was balancing budgets for, Crafty and all that stuff, I was also stepping in front of a camera because we couldn't pay anyone to, stand in front and read raffle numbers or announce the players who are coming in. And the more stuff I did on camera, the more I realized that I liked it. So I started doing my own content. Guy named Travis Gafford, who is a pretty well-known interviewer in the League of Legends scene, ended up seeing some of my work, invited me to come work with him. Yahoo did some LCS content, a little bit of collegiate content, which is where I know you, Abby, and I know a couple other of our TESPA buddies. But then from there, it was just, hard work and a lot of awesome opportunities that just happened to be available at the time. I worked LCS. I worked with Team Liquid. I've done stuff with TSM, Cloud9, like all the major esports orgs, just in terms of little content, big content, social content, or even full-scale productions. And so now I'm here. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight.
Whole journey, a hero's journey right there. Aya.
Similar. I feel like everyone I've talked to in this space that does talent and on-camera work kind of accidentally falls into it. But yeah, same here. I started out as a tournament admin for World of Warcraft. I was working with a group called GCD TV. We were running sort of community arena events, and we eventually became like closely tied with the WoW esports team, sort of helping run their official arena series. So while I was doing that, I was also doing a little bit of stats producing and just like social media work, and I was doing like social media videos as well. And they needed someone to do interviews. And I was like, that sounds fun. So I just asked them if I could send in like a little audition tape, and I did. And they tried me out and they liked me, and I just kept saying yes to more and more events, and it's sort of expanded into where I am now. And I'm very, very happy to be here.
Love it. Malik?
Yeah, man. Oh, it's so crazy how everyone has like a different journey. Everyone has a different path. I started off playing Rainbow Six Vegas professionally.
Cool.
I talked a lot of crap, and a lot of people enjoyed watching me talk crap, so they started to follow me. I took that following and made a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, it got sort of popular, and some reputable folks in the comedy world saw it and decided to bring me in to their website. That person being this guy named Chris Hardwick, and that site being Nerdist. So I was working for Nerdist as a game journalist for about 3 years, and after doing that, I was contacted by Bleacher Report to take my hosting abilities that I learned working at Nerdist and transfer that over to Bleacher Report, talking about esports. And that pretty much was the start of me actually getting into esports and starting to do broadcast work. And I went from that to working with Blizzard, hosting Overwatch League tournaments, Street Fighter tournaments, and all types of stuff. So just like everyone else, just kind of a strange path getting here. But they always say that if you really want a job in esports, don't set out for one in the very beginning. And that's pretty much how I played it.
I love that. And Jess?
So yeah, I love that everybody has like ask everybody, and everybody's going to give you a very different story.
Yes.
So I really started, let's see, when I graduated college in 2010. So starting in 2011, I had just like a boring kind of day job, but I knew I wanted to work in esports. So I started a YouTube channel, and I bought like a really crappy like green screen lighting, camera, kind of taught myself. I like learned by doing. I started hosting a couple times a week a gaming news segment, not expecting any viewership, not expecting to like be a YouTuber or anything, but I was trying to like learn how to host, build up footage for a reel, and hopefully get noticed by someone who could hire me for like a hosting job. So fortunately that happened after about 9 months of doing that on YouTube. I got hired by this little startup like website covering free-to-play MMOs. So I was there full-time, host, kind of freelanced around for a little bit, got hired on by Curse, So that was kind of really what was my big break in terms of gaming. So I worked for Curse for about a year and a half doing like gaming content, but not esports content. And it was while I was there that I really wanted to transition from hosting videos about gaming to doing more like live event hosting and esports. So I started a segment on Dota, which was a game I was playing a lot at the time. That led me to getting picked up for a couple little Dota events, like at the TI4 EU Hub back in 2014, which was super, super fun. And that was kind of what launched my freelance esports hosting career. And I'd already signed on with my agency CSA by then. So basically been freelance since 2014.
That I'm so curious because we have such like a diversity of journeys. I want to hear more about kind of, especially in 2020, a lot of hosts now are balancing hosting with streaming and living their own life. What are some of your tips that you've found along the way for maintaining self-care? And let's start with Jess.
That is a really good one. And thank you for starting with me because I have I love talking about like mental health and stuff like that. So I love talking about self-care. So like my big one, honestly, therapy, y'all. Like I finally started seeing a therapist earlier this year. I use BetterHelp because I started during the pandemic and I was like, I don't want to go through the rigmarole of trying to find a therapist that I vibe with who also can do like video conferencing, because like many traditional therapists are not really set up to do like video calls. And I just didn't really know if I wanted to be like in an enclosed space with someone for an hour at a time, talking a lot and, you know, having them talk on me. So, so I started using BetterHelp. And honestly, it's just so good for like all those little anxious fears I have of like, oh no, like I got to stay relevant. I got to push myself to stream every single day. I have to always be creating content. Like I have this thing where I'm like, if I'm not hosting an event maybe this week, or if I have a couple weeks off, like I feel like I got to fill my time with streaming. And then I start feeling really guilty if I miss a couple of days of streaming. And it's just a really bad mentality. So anytime I can just bring those thoughts to my therapist and just be like, here's how I feel. And she's like, well, you're wrong, but it's okay to feel that way. And here's how to stop feeling that way. And it's beautiful. So that's my main thing is go to therapy, y'all.
Malik.
Yeah, no, that therapy, that's a nugget right there. I feel like self-care, taking care of your mental health is super important. I feel like a lot of folks who work in the broadcast space and esports feel like that since they do have this time, they need to utilize it. They need to become a Twitch streamer. They need to like etch that part out and get that stream of income. But that's not necessarily the case for everybody. I feel like if streaming is your strong suit and something that you're really strong at doing, then to do it, you know, but there's plenty of other things out there that you can do within this space, maybe producing a show or starting a podcast or things of that nature that you can do to keep yourself engaged. And for me in particular, that's kind of been my thing is I've been working on a lot of initiatives that have been more so rooted in just stuff that's not typical of gaming, but still applying it to the gaming space, like civic engagement. We just had the election that just passed. I was heavily involved in just like starting the conversation about politics within some of my gaming communities that I am a part of. And I thought that was something that I really wanted to spend my time doing as opposed to just sitting there and streaming and trying to like talk to everybody while I'm playing a game. It felt a lot better to just be able to just reach out to people and talk to them. And I think that that's just really what's the most important with this quarantine is just finding your balance and finding what your strong suits are and finding what you're really passionate about. If you have that opportunity to do that, why not take it? And most of us esports hosts, we're lucky because we get to work from home. We get to do everything from our desk. So, you know, the sky's the limit once you get that time.
Aya.
So when I was looking over the questions for this one, I literally wrote LOL, wish I knew. But sort of to add off of what you guys both just said, therapy is really good. I've also recently started to do that, which has been tremendously helpful. And also to build off of what Jess was saying, like, I feel like we as content creators, as hosts, kind of feel like we always have to put something out there. We have to be making something new and sort of like doing something or creating something. And like any downtime, at least for me, like I start to feel like guilty.
Yeah.
So I think balance is a huge thing. Scheduling is a huge thing. Like, you know, going to bed at the same time, you know, treating yourself right, eating well, not being too hard on yourself when maybe you don't have a very good show, or, you know, you're not seeing the growth that you saw maybe like a week ago or the month before or something like that. So I think a lot of it is definitely being, you know, easy on yourself, creating and doing what makes you happy, and sleeping and drinking water. So more easy, simple physical things.
Literally all very important for humans and hosts. Amelie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take everyone's advice here because I do not have a good balance. Like I said when we started, and as we start talking about, mental health and making sure you balance your work and your streaming, like I'm trying to figure out if I should be sparing this night elf or not, or if I should be killing them on this beach. Like that's what I'm doing at the same
Don't
time.
spare
Like,
the night elf.
don't? Okay, then I'm
You're a
just gonna
killer.
go. Bye, Sarah. Bye, Sarah.
Oh.
No, but I mean, I think the biggest lesson for me, because I think it was a couple months ago that the whole topic of the grind came up again, where it was like, listen, if you do the grind, you will find success in, esports or in gaming or wherever you set out to do. And sometimes we see, that have some success. I would consider myself as an example of it because like I sacrificed a personal life in order to jump into the professional life, and it's been doing pretty well for me so far. But you gotta find that balance. Listen to the other 3 people here who were telling you to go see a dang therapist. I will say I started seeing a therapist, cried like a baby in the first session, but after that I'm like, oh, so this is stability. This is mental and emotional stability. So definitely follow their advice. I would just say, like, if something like hosting events and streaming is something that you do have a passion for and something that you do aspire to pursue, then like you gotta full commit into it. You've got to full commit into it. So I'll be hosting an event. I could use this Monday as an example. I hosted Jacob Wolf's free agency show for Evil Geniuses, and I think altogether it was something like a 6-hour show.
Mhm.
I had a 15-minute break as soon as that show ended, and then I drove straight over to Liquid to shoot for another 3 or 4 hours to do the Liquid update. And sometimes that's just how the esports and gaming schedule works out at the end of the day. But honestly, like those are 2 amazing pieces of content and 2 amazing great teams that I get to work with. So everything pays off. You just got to be dedicated and understand that you're jumping into something.
I feel
And
like
understand
it's
that it's
hard.
not always like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, I feel like it's hard in our role specifically, where like even if you have those kinds of days where you're really busy and you have like back to back things that you're doing, like we have to be on and we have to act like we're not tired and we have to act like engaging even if we are really not in the mood. Whereas like back when I was in the studio doing back behind the scenes stuff, if I was tired, I could be like, like this, still doing my job. But
Well, it's also you're talking just about these different, so many pot and many kettles, so many things going on at the same time,
Mhm.
and again the balance of that. And it's interesting. We talked about growth. I'm really curious about how important social media is in regards to hosting now. Has the importance of having a platform changed the industry recently? And let's do Avilee and work back again.
Oh, yeah, I would say most definitely. I feel like most of my career success or notability kind of came from me posting really stupid stuff on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, where all of a sudden people understand, oh, okay, Avilee posts like the really goofy stuff on her social media. And then from there, it's, oh, if we want to have like a goofy broadcast, let's use Avilee as a host because we can't think of any other hosts who have this like goofy or fun personality. And so I'm like, hell yeah, I'm down to make terrible jokes or cow puns on your broadcast for a few hours. Like, throw me in there. But then at the same time, you could look at someone like, I don't know, I'd say Golden Boy or Shocks, who have maybe like a little bit more, I don't want to say serious, because Shocks did like a WAP thing with wine the other month and I loved it. But they have more of kind of like a professional tone to their stuff, where I'm tweeting at CLG fans saying kiss my ass or butt. Sorry. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's definitely very important nowadays, and I think it's just important in streaming or internet culture in general, for you to be able to manage your social media well, at least in the way that you want to present yourself or your brand like that.
Very interesting and educational. Aya.
yeah, I would completely agree with that. Whenever anyone approaches me and asks how they can get into esports, I always say that Twitter, I think, is really the best networking tool. Every single job I've gotten outside of like the first gig that I ever got, like I got through networking and marketing myself, and making my brand very clear on Twitter. But every social media platform I feel like is really good, a really good way to sort of present yourself and how you want to be seen. as a host and as a content creator. So, and I would also like to say, Avalie, I very much love your content. I don't think it's stupid.
You're so
It's very
sweet.
good.
So nice.
I really like it.
So wholesome. I'm also super okay. This is for me. Malik, you've been here for a while, and I'm saying this is someone who looked up to you when you were at Nerdist already and seeing your growth. I'm curious from your perspective how you've seen kind of the changing of digital media. Like I said, I would just kind of the timeline, you know?
It's been crazy because I was like, I was on Twitter when Twitter After Dark was still happening all the time, and there were like no esports people, you know, really committing to Twitter the same way they are now back then. That was very interesting. I mean, it's huge having a social media platform. I mean, that's pretty much unspoken at this point. I feel like being able to connect with your community and to do it so seamlessly is super important. And you learn so much about games through Twitter conversation, be it somebody posting something new with meta or something, you know, related to the pro scene or the high level gameplay of a game or of a scene. So all that stuff is very important. And I just think, you know, for hosts in particular, like when you're trying to, you know, really show people who you really are, because one of the biggest things about esports that we've been trying to overcome is like coming off as authentic. How do we, you know, show them that we're not, you know, really trying to be ESPN? How do we show them that, you know, we're just gamers hanging out and having fun? Well, Twitter's a good way because Twitter's it's just a direct connection straight to the community. They get to hear what you have to say, unfiltered. And I think that's, you know, the power of having social media platforms is you just you know, connect with your audience just instantaneously. And as long as you're able to do that, you can continue to grow your audience.
Yeah. And Jess.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to say the exact same thing that Malik just said, which was that it's, you know, and to expand upon that a little bit, like it's great. It's necessary to have this like direct connection with your community, but at the same time, it can be a double-edged sword because you're some of the worst parts of the internet that you don't want to see. They also have the direct connection to you. So like anyone can just tweet at you what they think of you and they can tag you in it. And it's just like seems very rude. Like I can't imagine going to any actor that I dislike. I can't imagine like tweeting at them and saying like at, you know, not Keanu Reeves because I love Keanu Reeves, but like I can't imagine, you know, being like, man, I really think at Keanu Reeves sucks. You know, and yet that's what some people do. So, but it's so necessary. And so I hate that, like whenever there's a new platform, it's so necessary. But you know what? My other three fellow panelists were so positive about social media and they said all the correct, accurate, good things about social media. But I'm going to tell you the dark side because I feel like enough has been said. Yeah. So there's a lot of things. Whenever there's a new social media platform, there's the oh crap, I have to get on this platform. Sorry. Again, you got it. So for instance, like when TikTok first started blowing up, everybody I know, literally, I don't know a single person now or a single host content creator who isn't also on TikTok. And I was on TikTok for a while and I kind of don't like it just because I felt like I had to, you know, when Twitter Fleets first came out, I thought, well, crap. Now here's just another thing that I have to do. I hate it, but I have to, because if I don't, everybody else up there, their little picture is showing up at, oh, so-and-so posted a new fleet. I mean, it's not using those words, obviously, but you look up, you see the picture, you see the circle, you know that person has a new fleet, and they're showing up at the top of your Twitter feed. I'm not showing up at the top of anyone's Twitter feed if I'm not using fleets. So I have to. It's just an additional thing. So it's like a rat race that you're just never done with, but it's because it's so necessary. I mean, there are beautiful things that have come out of social media, and like one thing in particular, I will, you know, go back on track and say like social media, like in particular, so one thing I'm very vocal about, I told you I'm really vocal about like mental health and stuff like that. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I think that's a problem that a lot of people are really not as open to talking about. So a lot of people who are having a problem with like alcoholism or substance abuse feel like they can't really share with anyone, or they don't know who to talk to. And I've gotten so many DMs from people who are either struggling with that problem themselves or have a family member who is. And it's just like, wow, if I didn't have like DMs open on Twitter, these people wouldn't be able to connect with me. And it's like, that's the one reason why I'm like, I'll always have DMs open so that people can reach me and talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. Can I piggyback off?
Yeah, go, Malik. Yeah, totally.
I feel like what's really important with like Twitter and just social media and having that direct connection is we can always like correct the stories when they get wrong. I know especially the women in esports and in broadcast deal with this a lot more, but guys will run off and they'll make all types of stories or they'll make all types of narratives about whoever the broadcaster is and what's going on, or drama. You'll see things on Reddit and whatever, and you can always just, completely debunk all that stuff very quickly by sending out a tweet or just being able to send out a video on Instagram or whatever the case may be. So it is kind of frustrating because, like Jess said, it requires like so much of your time and attention, and it is something else that you're essentially managing. But at the same time, there are benefits to being able to, just completely have your own narrative and completely have your own truths, on display for everybody to see. So there's no, craziness going on. I know personally for me, I dealt with that, especially when I was with Overwatch League and everybody was doing the whole try hard emote thing. And then this narrative started going around that I was like in my house, curled up in a ball, crying about the try hard emote. And then I was going to get players like, taken out of the league over it. And that was never the case, So I was able to just tweet like, hey guys, I'm not mad about this. I just think it's very insensitive, and you guys just thought. And that was it. So I think that, it is cool to talk about the dark side of social media, and there are negatives, but there are plenty of positives as well.
I love looking at all of this from a nuanced perspective, and y'all just brought up so many interesting situations that I don't think people normally think hosts have to deal with. So I'm going to go back to Jess and work our way through again. But what is the most surprising part of your job? What's something that you do that most people wouldn't expect or think?
I think one way I'll answer this is that people who are not hosts don't understand, I think, a lot of what actually goes into hosting, or kind of everything that it means, or some of the stuff you have to do, or sometimes how difficult it can be. So for instance, like I remember when I was with CWL, there was this thing I would have to do where I would talk to the players like right before a match and kind of, read the vibe, see how they're feeling, maybe get a little quote from each team. And then between like maps 1 and 2, the analyst desk would toss over to me and I'd be like, yeah, I talked to the teams beforehand, this team's feeling really good. This team was really nervous, but as we can see, this team ended up coming out on top. So, looks like they didn't have to be nervous after all. Ha ha ha, back to the desk kind of thing. And like, it was actually really challenging because like, it was just so much information that I had to like memorize in a short period of time, regurgitate, like accurately remember, okay, who said what, which team was feeling confident, which team wasn't. And
did you ever forget the teams behind you and you had to like,
fuck yeah.
I'd be like, wait,
yeah.
I would be like, and then this.
Yeah. And I just made a part of the whole thing. I'd be like, and as we can see, and Team Envy are feeling really confident, whereas Optic not so much,
Totally. Glad it wasn't just me.
Yeah. So just like things like that, or one thing that really always I like to pick on is when so there's a lot of times when you have to fill when maybe a match is not ready, or there are technical difficulties, or for whatever reason you have to fill. Sometimes it's you by yourself. Hopefully, usually it's you and another host, another analyst, whatever. But there are tons of times when you have to fill. And when you do that, the chat is always, stop talking and get to the match.
Yeah.
And like, I think like chat thinks, or the people in chat who are not really informed or don't think about it, they think that we're just talking because we like talking. Like they don't even realize that there's a producer in our ear telling us when to stop talking, when to keep talking, how long we have to fill for, all that good stuff. So those are the few that really kind of stand out in my mind.
Can you go? I want to hear like Malik. I want to hear some stories.
Okay, so probably the weirdest thing, or the most shocking thing that happened to me, like that I was not ready for, the most surprising thing on camera, is the handshakes. The handshakes are terrible. Like when I'm interviewing folks, or and you on-air handshakes just don't seem to work out. It's like people know they're being recorded or cameras rolling, so they just start getting really nervous about the handshakes. And I don't understand why it is like that, but it is. But I feel like the most surprising thing for me overall when it came to this broadcast life had to be the things that happened behind the scenes when it came to like negotiations between the esports leagues you're working for and the developers. That is always a thing to watch, because you essentially have two different parties. You have like your broadcast team that sees like a certain way they want to take the gameplay, a certain direction that is, and then you have your folks who actually make the game. They might have a different perspective. And I know not everybody deals with this, not every league. Some do in-house production, but in my experience working with publishers like Capcom, the guys who make Street Fighter, and doing something under like the Turner Broadcast umbrella. That's two different parties who both have like a different kind of approach to things, and that's always very interesting. And it's also very surprising to kind of see like how much both sides don't really know about the other side, and so how much they have to kind of learn, and that is always very it's very insightful, because you're learning that this is so much in its infancy, esports, that everybody really just has a lot of homework to do before we're really achieving these these huge broadcast expectations that we have set out, that we're setting out for. So yeah, that's probably the most surprising thing to me, is just the more top level stuff that happens.
Very cool. Aya.
So I think one of the more surprising things is like Malik was saying, esports is such a young industry, and I think a lot of people don't understand what the role of a host is, kind of like Jess was saying, where there's like casters and there's hosts and there's analysts. And I think a lot of people expect the host to sort of also be an expert on the game, and that they're there to, offer their expert analysis on the game and what's going on. And I know that I personally deal with a lot of people thinking that I don't deserve my role as a host in World of Warcraft specifically, because I'm not like some ex-pro or anything like that. They think that I'm, why is she always asking questions? She has no idea what's going on. Which is, I think, like, it's really frustrating. Like, my favorite thing is when I see it
for you.
Yeah, it's like I'll see in chat all the time people describe my exact job as if it's an insult. They're like, why is this girl only naming the teams and asking the questions? And I'm like, thank you. No, I'm doing my job.
I've seen that comment too. They're like, so her job is literally just ask questions? Bitch, yes. What do you think? Host an interview? I'm an interviewer.
Exactly. And they think that, it's just this like easy, cushy job, when in reality, like, you're doing a lot more than they see. You, like you guys have said, you're listening to the producer, you're calling cues, you're remembering, which team is next, where we are in the bracket, how they played last year, how they played against this team when. So I think is like the misunderstanding and the disconnect between the community and what exactly our role is for the broadcast. And it can be really frustrating. And the other thing I think is, maybe it's not so much surprising, and of course every community has their bad eggs, but I really, really love and I really enjoy getting to know the players, because a lot of them are just amazing people. They're funny, they're smart. And I've developed these really, really awesome friendships with people that I've admired for years, as players. So it's cool to see someone get the recognition that they deserve. Like, for example, in World of Warcraft, Peekaboo is so loved as a community, and I'm happy and proud to say, like, he's actually a really good person. Like, I'm happy that you're a fan of him, because he deserves it. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and Avalie, any like weird or surprising things that you don't think other people who don't maybe know much about broadcasts would not expect?
Well, I just want to kind of piggyback onto what Aya was saying just a second ago. She was saying people were questioning her credibility. And I mean, you told me to kill Syra, but they're still alive. So that's a dink to the credit. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think everyone pretty much said the good pieces. I think the only thing that I would have to add is, when you're in that position of hosting, or when you're in that position of an interviewer or something like that, you're also essentially producing the show. Except the difference between you producing on camera compared to the people producing backstage is that the people backstage aren't the ones who are going to have their DMs get lit up if something goes wrong on stream. It's you. If you say, and introducing TSM and Cloud9, but the graphics guy throws up, I don't know, Immortals and Dignitas. It's
your fault.
What is she saying? What's going on here?
Yep.
But I mean, there's also like a fun aspect to that as well. Any time that you interact with players, this is kind of how I think about it. Even with some of the older players, the players who have been around for a while, you're babysitting them. You are holding their hand. You are saying like, okay, Doublelift, I'm going to ask you a question about the bot lane. So just tell me about the bot lane. And you say, so Doublelift, tell me about the bot lane experience in this game. And he says, man, Spring Split is useless. And it's like, well, that went in a completely different direction. Let's go ahead. I need to ask you some other questions about the meta. So let's reel it back over for a second. He goes, and screw this champion and forget this. It's like, all right, well, we've lost control of the situation. Let's just go for the Twitch clips and highlight reels. So there is definitely a lot to it. But honestly, when you're in a position of hosting, when you're in the position of being the frontward face for the broadcast, for the specific show, or just for a piece of content or a segment or something like that, like, I think it is really cool because you are basically a representation of what the show either like stands for or what's going on. So if you're on a funny show, you got to be the fun person. If you're on a serious show, you have to be the buttoned up serious person, so on and so forth. But either way, like, it's great.
This is so fascinating because y'all have such a wide, again, breadth of experiences of just so many places over these years. And I am curious about what has been the most fun or memorable piece of content you have ever created. And let's do Avali.
Oh God. Probably any of the stuff that I do in partnership with Team Liquid and 1UP Studios.
Mm-hmm.
We released a WAP parody this year, and instead of the
so good,
instead of the name that WAP stands for, the title that we gave was Weak Ass Play-ins, because we were following Team Liquid and they had made it out of the play-in stage for Worlds, for the League of Legends Championship Series. And holy crap, we spent like a day putting the lyrics together. We spent a full day recording the lyrics and then dancing, found out that all of the footage got corrupted. So I had to show back up the next day and then do it all over again. But I think it came out better that time. Fans went crazy. The players went crazy. I think Steve, Liquid Steve, was probably dancing to it in his office when he didn't think anyone was looking. Like, it turned into one of the most amazing pieces of content that I've ever been a part of, and that I think like the League of Legends scene has gotten in a while. And it was all done during COVID, where everyone's saying like, we can't make content because of coronavirus. And it's like, we did this all in front of a green screen with like 3 people. You could do it. Believe in yourself. So that's probably the best thing that I've ever done.
That's so very special. Aya.
Okay, so I want to ask a question to you first, Avali.
Oh,
you did a TikTok. It was like the audio of a TikTok with the players, where it was like, it's like, I love you, have a good day.
Oh,
yeah. That? Okay, so I saw that while I was at an event, and I'm like showing the players, I was like, guys, can we do this, please? Like, let's do it, let's remake it. And they're all like, mm-mm. How
what
did you get them?
What scene is this?
The World of Warcraft. None of them were into it.
Okay.
Not a single one.
Here's the thing. You don't give them an option. This is what I've done. This is why I said I babysit them, right? No, each and every single one of them knows that I love them with all of my heart, take a bullet for them. Like, they're all freaking sweethearts and they're all right here, right? But I will walk up to Smithy and I will say, I'm going to paint your nails, blow dry them for me so I can film it. He doesn't have a choice there. But then there's other players who are like interested in doing it. So I think like Golden Glue, Demonte, a lot of the Korean players are excited. And if you explain to them, hey, this is going to take not even a minute of your time. All I need you to do is say, goodbye. Hello. Okay. You don't even give them a chance to do it. You see them in the hallway. You say, what's the name of one of the players? Name a player.
Peekaboo.
Peekaboo. You get him, you find him in the hallway, be like, Peekaboo, I'm recording a TikTok. I need you to stand against the wall really fast and then just wave. And if he says, what do you mean? Why do you want me to wave? I don't want to wave. Just be like, nope, it's a TikTok. It'll take 5 seconds. Just go ahead and do it for me. They get so scared and confused that before you know it, you have a piece of content.
Okay. Good to know. I'll keep that. I was so disappointed. It would have been so cute.
Yeah. But don't ask, tell.
Just tell. All right. Tell. But on that note, I don't really have like any cool sort of like music videos or anything that I've been a part of, but my favorite event that I've ever done was last year. It was with Complexity. We did the Race to World First. I don't know if anyone saw that, but it's basically like a raid race between guilds where they try and finish the mythic tier the quickest. And it was like a 9-day event, and it was super long hours. but the players were amazing. Complexity is all. They're very, very nice people. And I think that will always forever be in my heart, my favorite event that I've ever done. Just because everybody was really fun and we won, which was good. And the catering was and yeah, it was good.
Things are special for different reasons, and that is valid. Malik.
Oh man, so many videos throughout my Nerdist days that I would probably bring up, or but I'm gonna stick to esports. Probably my favorite thing that I ever did was when I had a back and forth with Jimmy Fallon over a botched handshake. Of course. But pretty much me and Siegel, we had a handshake during the Overwatch Open during E-League back in 2016. And Jimmy Fallon saw the botched handshake and, decided he would poke fun at us on his show. So we saw this. And then the day after, we went back on TBS and went back after Jimmy Fallon. We showed a clip of him messing up a handshake too. And it was just a funny little event that happened a couple of years ago. And it felt good to kind of have a back and forth with one of the late night talk show hosts. I felt like I validated myself as a host by doing that. So that would be my favorite thing.
I love that. Very mainstream. Jess.
So I have a couple that come to mind. Not as cool as Malik and Avalise, I think. I think you guys had definitely the really cool content. But one that was really cool for me was while I was with Curse, we did this series that Alienware had sponsored it was called Can You Do It IRL? And basically the concept was we would take different things that you often do in video games and then have us do them in real life. So one of them was can you fly a plane in real life? So they took us out to this place. Yeah. So it was really fucking cool. I got to fly a plane. There's this place called Air Combat USA. It's somewhere in Southern California. I don't remember where. I think it's somewhere in Orange County, but I can't remember what city. And you're with obviously a pilot who knows what he's doing, and you have just the student controls. But at one point he did, take his hands off. He's like, all right, you're piloting it. Let's do and we learned the difference between a barrel roll. What everyone calls a barrel roll is not actually what a barrel roll is. So that was just a really cool thing to be a part of. And then another funny one that comes to mind is while I was hosting at the Xbox booth at Comic-Con 2015. There's this, it's terrible. It's not good. It's hilarious, but it's terrible. There's a video out there called the Xbox Wheel of Unfairness that has been memed on really hard because what happened was I was basically anyone at the event could come up and spin the wheel. It was a virtual wheel. So the producers knew ahead of time who was getting what. And it ended up they were giving out some Xboxes, Xbox Live Gold cards, controllers, things like that. And then it ended up that every single, it was a lot of kids. And every single kid that won, every kid who won a controller, didn't actually have an Xbox. And so they're what am I supposed to do with this? And then the only kid that did win an Xbox, already had one. And so it was just a whole big mess. And it doesn't really look too good for Xbox, but it's really, really funny. And I was just trying to get these kids hyped about winning a console that they already had or winning a controller for a console that they didn't have. And it's really funny, but it's really not great.
So the unfairness part was you.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly.
Persuasive power. So this is our final question before we get to the audience Q&A. And we're going to start with Jess. Do you have any pre-event rituals? I think this is such a cool one.
Yeah, I do not. I know people who do, but I don't. I should. So sorry.
Malik?
I mean, outside of my typical preparation, no rituals really. I'll just make sure I have all my ducks in a row and I know what I'm getting ready to talk about. But outside of that, nah, I keep it going.
Oh, I don't know if you're talking to me, but hello?
Please, yeah, can you hear me?
There we go.
I'm
Sorry.
my
My
game's up.
I couldn't hear. I was like, oh God, is she talking to me? No, I'm really boring. I'm sorry. I also don't, I do my makeup. I do my makeup. I make coffee. I look at my notes, but no, I don't have any superstitious, I always listen to this song at this volume and do 10 push-ups and wear these lucky socks. But no, I don't. I'm sorry. Boring answer.
Okay, I'll give you an interesting one. I'll give you an interesting, embarrassing one. This isn't a constant routine, but I'll tell you about the first time I was driving to do LCS interviews for Yahoo. So I was driving with the videographer, and ladies and Malik, listen, I do not put time and effort into my appearance in terms of hair, makeup. That's what like the makeup artist is for. I got Cloud9 and esports merch on all day, every day. So I put in effort. I tried to put on a matching pair with like nice pants or something. I remember turning to the videographer and be like, do you think my outfit's like okay for this? And he's like, I think you could have worn like a different shirt or something. I start bawling in the car. So I'm crying in the car as I'm driving. So I'm wiping the tears and staring at the 405. He freaks out because he didn't think it was that bad of a comment. And he's like, no, you look great. I'm sorry. I just meant like a different color. But no, this is fine. This is fine. So we pull into the parking lot of the LCS, and I pull myself together, basically. It's like everything's fine. And walk into the building, and Travis is there, and he's like, all right. And at first he told me I was just going to do one interview. And then he said, no, you're doing the full day of interviews. So then I just, I excuse myself really fast. I walk into a corner, and then I just start bawling again. Not loudly, just silent tears falling from my face. But then I just suck it up yet again. I go into my first interview. I'm shaking a little bit. I think it was with Gate at the time. He was on Echo Fox or something. And it was fine. It was fine. It was okay. But then from that day onward, for maybe like the first couple months of doing interviews and stuff, I never asked people about my appearance because, they can kiss my butt. And I decided, like, I will wear what I think looks okay. If it doesn't look okay for other people, then that's their problem. Unless it's like in a broadcast where it's like, hey, put on a dress. You can't wear sweatpants. And it's like, okay, fine. But yeah, so that's been like my, I guess, wake up in the morning routine if I'm to jump up on a broadcast. Be okay with yourself.
Valid. And here we have our first of our audience Q&A, which is kind of a combo wombo question. So we're going to start with Jess, but it's basically about what advice do you have for people who want to make it as a host? And then also, agency or not, I'm curious to hear about when you think it's appropriate for a more entry-level host to start looking for representation. So it's kind of a twofer.
I like it because I think I'll answer the agency part first. I would say don't put the cart before the horse. Like, don't worry about representation if you don't really have a body of work to submit to that potential agency. Like, don't even waste your time contacting agencies if you don't have a body of work to show them. And I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, like, well, how are you supposed to get the work if you don't have the representation? But you kind of have to get the work before the representation because they're not going to represent you if they don't see what you can do. And then also with agencies, like, be very careful as far as like, I know of agencies. I have friends who have come to me and been like, man, I really want to switch agencies because my agency like isn't really booking me for anything. When I find gigs on my own, they're still taking a cut. I'm kind of like, well, that agent is not doing you any favors. It needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. They're not going to sign you unless they think that they can get you work because they're going to take their cut. And the more you work, the more they make money. So that's how it benefits everyone. And if you don't, if one party is not benefiting, it is not a relationship that you should be in.
Nope.
And then as far as like advice for hosts, I would say, or for people who want to be hosts and such, like a lot of it is kind of like, you got to pay your dues in some ways. No one's just going to hire you. No one's going to hand you the really lucrative gigs that pay a lot, unless you kind of take some of the crappy ones, or maybe, and I hate to advise anyone to work for free, but like produce your own content. I would say produce and host your own content. I'm never going to tell someone to work for free, especially if it's like actual on-camera talent. If they're hiring you and they're not paying you, there's a reason. Like, if they can't afford to pay you, then you shouldn't want to work for them. But like, host your own content, produce your own content, and you're not going to get paid for it. And it's going to be a ton of hard work, and you're not really going to get any recognition, but it's kind of what you got to do. So yeah.
I'm going to jump in because I'm going to say the exact opposite of Jess. Work for free.
Okay.
Work for free.
Okay.
Listen, I don't agree with it. But the main reason where I built up my experience, where I built up my resume, was being an absolute butt and just saying, yeah, I'll do it for free. I know you only have $50 to pay someone. And if you use me instead of using the $50 to pay someone else, then you can also hire another graphics person for $50 that day. These were all for collegiate and high school stuff. Like, it's, you want to jump in and you want to get that experience early on if you are able to. Because esports has been around for a couple of years now, but at the same time, esports production, all of these new events and stuff are still so new. Collegiate lands, high school lands, all that stuff, those are the opportunities for doing free work to put on your resume. Organizing events at your college or your high school, or even in your community, go through the library or the community center. I've seen that stuff done before. Just understand that a lot of that stuff is going to be volunteer work. Now, to Jess's point, if, R6 comes to you, like the R6 League comes and says, hey, we want you to host an interview for free, that's when you say, hell no. I know you have money. I see the stage. I see the players. No. But what I'm saying is, if a group of friends from your college come over and say, like, hey guys, we want to put together a tournament, we got pizza, but that's about it. You jump in and you say, I will host, I will do your graphics for you, I will run your social media, I'll do everything that I can. But also piggybacking onto Jess, because absolutely everything that she has said is true. I'm just adding that little bit of devil's advocate in there. But like, go out, start making your own content, because if you come up to someone and say, hey, I want to do hosting for you, they'll say, cool, have you done hosting before?
Yep. Where's the portfolio?
No. But I'd like the opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, this person has been hosting their own, YouTube podcast of games. And sure, they only get like 5 or 6 viewers of video, but they've actually done it before. So I'm going to go with them. Bye. Like, that's just what it looks like at the end of the day.
That's a good like addendum. And I guess I will modify mine and say, like, know your worth. As far as once you get to a certain point, you don't need to be taking those gigs for free anymore. But up until a certain point, if someone's offering you, if it's like a collegiate esports production and they don't have the budget to actually pay talent, but you'll still get that really professional looking footage for your reel, that's very valuable. So that's like a good gig to take. But, you'll get to a point, hopefully, where you're past that. You don't need to be working for free anymore.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. I'm curious also about the agency perspective, and then any more tips and tricks, not just like how to get better, but then also like how to maybe even get a job from Malik.
Yeah. Well, I first want to say, I think they made like a lot of valid points.
Yeah.
That we should not glance over. You got to really take all these jobs on a case by case basis and know who you're working for and what they may be able to offer you in your career. So if Activision comes up to you and says, hey, we want you to host like a week of the Call of Duty League for free, you better be ready to, say no and walk away pretty much. But it is good to get that experience. It is good to go to like local tournaments and local competitions and anything that is a little bit further away from tier 1, and really start to build your portfolio and build your set of skills. Another thing I will say, as far as like hosting goes, understand what it is to be a host. We touched a little bit on it earlier. You don't necessarily need to be a complete expert of a game. You're not an analyst, but you should at least have like a fundamental understanding of high level gameplay in whatever game that you are hosting. So you can have organic conversations with whoever you're on the desk with, or whatever player that you're speaking with. That's super important. I see so many people who, they see whatever the next big game is, and they're like, I'm going to go into that. And it's like, well, you better be ready to play that game and to learn that game and, really embrace that community before you just jump in there, because people won't respect you just kind of just marauding into, their competitive scene. And I think that's something that's super important. And also, when you're being a host, learn that, you're supposed to be the professional out of everyone else who's on the desk. You're keeping the train on the track. So, manage that. Make sure you're not being the one who's going over the top. I used to have a problem where I would let my personality come out a little bit too much, when I'm hosting. And I look at hosting the same way as like when I'm hosting people at my house. If it's just me and my wife hanging around the house, we don't wear pants. We just, it's just whatever. But when I'm actually hosting folks, I clean up, and I'll make sure I'm wearing, some nice clothing. And it's the same way when you're hosting on camera. You want to make sure that you are clean and that you are, presentable, and that you're basically welcoming everybody into the broadcast and, driving the ship, so to speak. And yeah. That's
Very.
Also, one more thing. If you are a woman in broadcast, in esports, I'm just saying this. I know they can all speak for me when I say this, but keep pushing, because I feel like I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the most mentally diligent women in this industry. Zoe, Michelle Morrow, just to name a couple, and I see some of the stuff that they go through, the way some of the production folks talk to them, the way some of the people like the community assesses their performance, and it's difficult. It's difficult. Like, it's difficult for me just to watch. I can only imagine how it is to be in you guys' shoes. So you guys can speak more to that. For me, I just felt the need to say that just because I've worked with so many women and I've seen it time and time again. It is like 10 times more harder job when you're working. You got to go to makeup 2 hours earlier and get yourself done, and it's just like a whole different process. So just be ready for that extra. It's kind of like you're seeing the patriarchy for itself up close and personal. Just know going in that we still got a lot of work to do when it comes to leveling the playing field between men and women in this industry.
That's a really helpful perspective. I'm glad we talked about that did come up. And
I'm the last person who should be saying it, but I guess
I'm glad you're right. And you're right. Yeah. And I'm glad, Aya, we are about to close it up. I want any like final tips or tricks that you got that you personally felt like didn't maybe get covered.
So was it how to get into hosting?
Yeah, tips and tricks for hosting. Yep.
So I said this before, but I really, really, truly believe that in esports, networking on Twitter is so important. I think making your presence known in the community that you want to be a part of, putting in your bio, aspiring, whatever, making, not just being some like random faceless person on Twitter, like responding to people that you admire, making, putting your inputs out there or your opinions out there. But also I think like kind of how Jess started in the industry, making your own content. If you want to be a caster, you can cast over a game that you want to cast and put it out on Twitter. I feel like I don't see, at least in the games that I work in, I don't see a lot of people doing that, being like, hey, here's what I can do. Here's my skills. And that's not just hosting. I think that's casting and analyzing as well. But I just think being very loud on Twitter in your community is really helpful. And I just feel like that's how I personally at least sort of started to make a name for myself. And then producing your own content. You can make make a little community tournament with your friends, and you are for those gonna have to work for free, unfortunately. But I think that's how a lot of people got started in the industry is what do you want to do? Then do it. And it's going to be at a smaller scale in the beginning, but I think I've seen a lot of people grow, not just in casting and in hosting, but just in esports in general by just starting what they want to do at a grassroots level. And I think that can be really valuable on your resume as well.
All such good stuff. We have actually gone over time, so I'm gonna have to cut us off. But I want everyone, before we go, I would love if everyone could do their socials and shout out where other people in chat could, find y'all and just see what you're up to. Let's start with Jess.
So my socials are pretty much just my first and last name, Jess Brohard. So that's where I am on Twitter and Instagram at Jess Brohard. And then my Twitch stream, where I stream almost every day, is twitch.tv/Jess.
Awesome. Malik.
I am Malik, Malik, 4 PLAY. Malik 4Play on every social media platform, Twitch platform, gamer ID.
Aya.
I'm Aya on Twitch, EIYA, and I'm Aya Wow everywhere else.
Ovely.
You can just type in Ovely to Google. I think I'm the only one out there.
Perfect.
It's easy.
We love it. Well, thank you all so much. A big, huge round of applause and gratitude for these amazing panelists coming and spending time with us today.
Wait, Abby, pause.
What's up? What's up?
You're hosting too, so don't you
am.
get to plug
What
yourself
about
as like
you?
an amazing host?
You've been here all day. You're the host of the hosts.
You're so sweet. I was going to do it after when we did our announcement.
I
of how much
apologize
money
then.
you
I
raised.
interrupted you.
That's also, you're very kind. You're so sweet, Amelie. We'll talk about that later, but basically this huge round of applause and gratitude for these amazing panelists for donating their time to educate us on the not often discussed transparency behind broadcasting. Like I said, we will go to a commercial break where we will then come back with our announcement of how much money we have raised for Area of Effect. Before we go, a quick message from our partners, Twitch Student. Twitch Student offers the means to grow an even larger audience. Represent your university on Twitch and gain skills and experience valuable to a future in gaming. Geek Therapeutics, the leader and gold standard in teaching professionals, parents, students, and others about geek therapy. And Leyline. Leyline is a nonprofit creating a digital economy that rewards people for contributing to causes they care about. Leyline connects users to causes they care about, rewarding them for doing good in the world and supporting the fights against poverty, climate change, cancer, and more. We'll see you back after the short commercial break. Bye-bye.